As some of you may know, 5 new albums and 4 re-recordings ago, I ranked every Taylor Swift song. The surprise release of Folklore, 3 days later, of course, rendered that a short-lived accomplishment, and it has since been the only one of Taylor's projects added to the list. Now, anytime she drops something, you people are in my direct messages asking when I will update my ranking. And for a long time, I said I'd do it when every re-recording was out. Given the purchase of her masters, however, I'm living on borrowed time. I must admit that I don't feel like it right now. Someday, I hope to. But today we set our sights on a smaller discography, yet similar artist by the name of Olivia Rodrigo. Why O-Rod? Thanks for asking, because over the years I've considered many options. But the truth is that no soloists speak to me like confessional singer-songwriters who play actual instruments on stage. I mean no disrespect to careers built by vocals, visuals, or anything else, but I yearn for diaristic lyricism, and that's why I'm a Swiftie. That's why, over all the other pop girls I'm very much a fan of, Olivia is who I hold closest to my heart. On that note, because I'm already doing it, my first disclaimer should be that I have no qualms with comparing Olivia to Taylor, nor have I chosen a side between them. Despite their estrangement, they are biologically blood related, musically speaking, and I can't or won't ignore that. Let it also be known that I'm largely uninterested in cataloging every accusation of plagiarism Miss Rodrigo has faced throughout her time in the sun. I mean, there's enough there to suggest originality isn't her strong suit, but she's really very open about her influences, and I've wondered if that's why people are so uniquely punitive when it comes to her. Personally, call me a copyright anarchist or a proponent of the public domain, but I really wouldn't care to litigate this sort of thing unless Olivia was caught stealing sheet music in the dark of the night. Until then, I'm not a cop. What else? This might not be worth mentioning because now that she's in her 20s, conversation has died down about her age, but I am 4 years older than Olivia Rodrigo, and I have been listening since Sour. If you're cool, that means absolutely nothing to you, but if you're a loser, you might take issue. I'm addressing the losers among you when I say I listen to old music now and I'll be listening to new music when I'm old. Sure, my sisters and I were some of the only people singing along to Olivia's cover of Complicated on the Sour tour, but we weren't ashamed. Also, for the record, I didn't get my driver's license until the age of 20, so you'd be surprised what a woman can relate to. Anyway, one last warning. Subjectivity is the name of the game. You and I both know that my opinions aren't going to mirror yours every step of the way, and that's cool with me if it's cool with you. Leave your comments, but don't just disagree. Tell me why. What does the song in question mean to you, or what about it am I missing? I'd so much prefer to read that than "you're so wrong" over and over again. You know what I mean? Now, how is this going to work? Hold on to your hat if you've seen the Taylor Swift video, because a couple of changes have been made. For one, that whole project was scripted, but once we get into it here, I'll be speaking from the heart. And for another, I ranked Taylor's tracks one by one, but I will only be sorting Olivia's into tiers today. At first glance, that might appear lazier, but my intention isn't to be less thorough, it's to be more accurate. Hindsight is 2020, and my placements for Taylor feel all wrong now because on any given day, month, or year, my opinion is inevitably going to change at least a little. Looking back at that list though, what hasn't changed as much is where each song fell into the tiers I included. They're just better for longevity, plus I think that method comes more naturally. Whatever you're ranking, it's easy to distinguish what you love from what you like or hate from dislike. It's harder to literally pick between them all. Pointless, even. This also means that rather than working through Olivia's discography in ascending order according to my ranking like we did Taylor's, I'll be covering one album at a time chronologically and revealing where each song fell. At least one thing has remained about my Taylor Swift ranking though, which is that each tier has been titled after song lyrics. But I won't tell you which until the moment arrives. So let's begin. You might expect me to start with Sour based on what I just said, and we will get there shortly, but first I'd like to go over a few non-album releases from Olivia over the years, and there are not very many. And actually, all but one of them comes from High School Musical, the series. I have personally only seen one episode of the show, and that is the first one, specifically because I wanted to make a video about it, only due to the fact that I live in Utah and I could film at East High.
Introduce yourself to them. Turn
Hi.
it to you for a minute.
So you probably can't see me, maybe you can. I'm Julia's dad. I live by East High, so we're just hanging out and filming.
So that video does exist and you can watch it, but I had very little to say about the show. It basically struck me as like Glee for tweens with a little mockumentary style on top of that, and it definitely wasn't bad. It just didn't fascinate me that much, but it did develop a real fan base, and I remember people I follow watching it. When Driver's License blew up, actually, I remember a lot of people, specifically adults, saying that Olivia came out of nowhere, that they didn't understand like how the song had blown up to the extent that it had. But I did distinctly remember the cult following she was starting to develop among that show's fandom. I didn't even personally follow her, and I wouldn't say I was a fan before Driver's License, but I remember seeing clips of her Instagram lives all the time and stuff like that. People were ready for her to release stuff, and it was like that initial fan base that I think really propelled that song to become what it was. And based on the direction her career has taken, it's really interesting to think now that she probably wouldn't be where she is today if it weren't for High School Musical, the series. I mean, she was already on the Disney Channel and she probably had a shot anyway, but that show in particular was a really interesting training ground for singer-songwriters because they were encouraged to write for the show. And actually going into this video, I didn't realize that Olivia Rodrigo had written on some of her songs for that show because I wasn't going to include anything from there until I was researching and realized there are 3 separate songs that she herself did write for herself to sing on the show. And I think that's actually a really cool thing that they did, because even without a broader context of the show, just watching the clips that these 3 songs come from, the music feels very authentically like written by teenagers. I think that's cool. I will still probably never watch the show, but I do think that's cool. Anyway, easily the most successful of these 3 songs was called All I Want, and before Driver's License, this was Olivia's first charting song.
All I want is love that lasts. All I want, too much to ask.
I don't remember how high it charted, and I could Google it right now, but I don't particularly care to. The point is that it sort of like hung out at the bottom of the top 100 for a while, and even though it can't be credited as like her breakout hit, I don't think without All I Want we get Driver's License. Like, I think this is a pipeline, and for that I have to appreciate All I Want. I haven't named the other 2 songs she wrote for the show yet, but it's also easily the best of the 3, and yet still I don't think it's comparable to what she would release later. I think it's a little lackluster and basic, just in a way I can appreciate as like the origins of Olivia Rodrigo. It's also very fitting for the show. There is a sort of radio mix of it with a music video filmed, I believe, at the Salt Flats, because I've been there. And that version feels like it has way too much weight on it and gravitas, like this is the best song you've ever heard in your life. Please pay attention. Look at our violins. This song is not built to carry that kind of power. It's very simple, the lyrics are very youthful, and that's okay. It's just a totally different vibe, and it's a lot more fitting for what you see in the show of her just sort of messing around on her piano.
I say that I'm through, but this song is still for you.
I'm probably gonna try to mention some of my favorite lyrics from a lot of the songs we talk about today, maybe even all of them. And looking at this one, I guess it would be the end of the chorus when she says, "All I have is myself at the end of the day, but shouldn't that be enough for me?" I think it brings the song back down to earth a little bit, because it does have the tendency that she would sort of carry on to Sour, where we're talking about teenage love triangles, but in very dramatic terms. So like, I don't know if this is the second verse or the bridge, but she says, "I miss the days when I was young and naive." You mean today? Anyway, as far as where this wound up on the tier list, I should first tell you that there are 5 tiers. I think 5 is a good number. That's why on Letterboxd I never do half stars or anything. I'll tell you right now, first and foremost, that this is a top-heavy list. The thing about ranking all of the music from an artist you like is that you like them. So like on average, I enjoy my Olivia Rodrigo. I like my doses of Olivia Rodrigo, and I actively listen to her music. I know every album front to back, you know, so I don't hate very many. In fact, I don't hate any, I would say, which makes All I Want from High School Musical, the musical, the series, a rare 4th tier entry. And that 4th tier, I can now reveal, is titled Being Annoying, Singing in Harmony. That is a lyric from Deja Vu, and you should probably know that. Moving on to the next song she wrote for High School Musical, the musical, the series, we are looking at a duet co-written with Joshua Bassett.
For a moment, just for a moment.
I did not previously know that this song existed, and now it's very funny to me. I am not here to insult Joshua, because I was once a 13-year-old girl, and that girl would have watched this High School Musical show, seen Joshua Bassett with his guitar and denim jacket, and thought, that's my man. She would have liked this song, and she would have liked him, but I am not her anymore. And I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to in terms of like who from that show turned out to be a star. I actually still see people debate whether it was this love triangle situation between Olivia, Joshua, and Sabrina that propelled either Olivia or Sabrina's career. It's a sort of ongoing argument between those fandoms that one or the other like made the other one's career. And I find that to be proven false by the mere existence of Joshua Bassett. If it is this celebrity gossip, if it is this situation that has made Olivia and Sabrina celebrities, like true to form A-listers, then would that not have happened for this boy as well? For the record, I also think the song Skin by Sabrina Carpenter is a good argument against that, because it was her response song to Driver's License. I believe Joshua Bassett had one as well, something about lying in the title. And neither of those songs went anywhere, right? So if Sabrina was only popular because of Driver's License, then she would have become popular with that song. It wasn't until much later, with a steady stream of hits from Emails I Can't Send leading into Espresso and then Short and Sweet. Like, she had a very traditional career trajectory of like climbing from the bottom, actually. And in Olivia's case, because Driver's License did so much better than either of the other two's tracks regarding the situation, obviously the song like connected more. It did something the other songs didn't. Point is, I think this song is largely infected by the fact that it's like mostly his song, and it's not like no parts of it are pretty, but it's a little bit laughable to me. It's a little bit not my speed, and unfortunately I'm not a fan of this boy. I also don't really want to name a favorite lyric from this song because I don't care about it, and for that reason it's actually in our bottom tier. I will tell you another secret beyond the fact that this is a top heavy list in general. This bottom tier, it has 2 songs in it, and the 2 songs are this one and the next one from High School Musical, the musical, the series we're going to talk about. Part of me feels lame for that. Like, I should be more critical, and if I'm going to be doing this ranking, I need to be like putting stuff in the bottom tier. But like I said, I'm an Olivia Rodrigo fan. And not only that, because I'm a fan of a lot of people that I have strongly disliked songs from. I have been there with Taylor Swift in particular, who takes big swings, which occasionally miss. But Olivia, on the other hand, is maybe risk averse and like just very tasteful. So even the songs that she puts out that aren't my number one favorites are okay. So I didn't want to force myself to put things in the bottom tier when that wasn't my true feeling. It is, however, my true feeling about Just for a Moment. I don't think I even said what it was called. Just for a Moment, the Joshua Bassett duet. I only listened to it for this video. I'm not interested in listening to it again. Oh yeah, and this last tier that it has been placed in, that you will not be hearing very much from, is called Any Stupid Song. So, as I already spoiled, the next track to enter this tier is the final one from the High School Musical show, and it is called The Rose Song.
Say I'm perfect, but I've got thorns with my petals too.
It's just Olivia this time, and this one is actually in the 2nd season, which I believe came out after Driver's License, so I don't think she had as big of a role in it. I'm not sure about this. Don't actually take my word for this, but I do know the 2nd season of that show is about a Beauty and the Beast play, and that is the reason they asked Olivia to write a song about a rose. And I also found it really funny. I saw a quote where she said that she was asked to write a feminist song from the perspective of a rose. To me, That is hilarious. And it's almost that quote's fault that this is in the last tier rather than the same tier as All I Want, because it's not bad. And as I've been working on this video, it has gotten stuck in my head a few times, but I find like the premise of it so laughable that it's really hard for me to get past. And like, for that being what she was told to do, she actually did a solid job. Like, let me read some of these lyrics here. Am I something to you and not someone? Because I feel trapped on this pedestal you put me on. I am more than what I am to you, and I won't be confined to your point of view. Like, genuinely, I think she did the best she could to write a feminist song from the perspective of a rose. Unfortunately, it was a stupid thing to ask her to do. So that's my thoughts. Anyway, this means we can finally escape High School Musical, the musical, the series, and talk about something I would much rather talk about, which is Can't Catch Me Now, the song she wrote for the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes soundtrack.
You can't catch me now. I'm higher than the hopes that you brought down.
If you don't know this about me already, I am a huge Hunger Games fan. And while Can't Catch Me Now, I think, is a beautiful song, like, in its own right, and anybody could enjoy it, I think you get so much more out of it being a fan of this story. I think the obvious comparison here is to Safe and Sound, which was Taylor Swift's Hunger Games soundtrack song, and I also love that song a lot, but that one feels less specific to the story it's attached to. And to be fair, I think you can listen to Can't Catch Me Now outside of the concept of the Hunger Games as well, but it is just so befitting to Lucy Gray's ending. It is so like eerie and empowering somehow. I remember when it came out, I was like, is my new favorite Olivia Rodrigo song the Hunger Games soundtrack song? Like, that feels like wild. And I don't know if it's like my number one, but it's definitely up there, and that means I get to reveal my top tier's title. Yes, that is where this is going. I think it's one of her best ballads. I think it's an incredible soundtrack song. I genuinely don't understand why this wasn't nominated for an Oscar. No, it's so good. Anyway, the top tier is titled I Might Just Be in La 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 Love. It was hard to figure out how many la's there were in there. Now, I think this song is like filled to the brim with lyrics that I could name as favorites, but it's less any particular line than just the entire like image that she lays out. It's full of like sensory details, almost like a horror novel would be written. That's why I call it haunting and empowering at the same time. It is such a weird mix, but that's exactly what the end of the book is like too. I kind of don't want to spoil it, but I also feel like the song itself spoils it. And I also feel like most of you have probably watched it or seen it or read it. You know what I mean. I would like to get into albums now. I'm worried about how long this is going to take me to film. Okay, so I think Brutal whips. I think it's awesome. I love it. I also think it works particularly well as an entry point for the album of Sour. I love it as the first track.
God, it's brutal out here.
It was actually apparently kind of a late edition. I learned through watching the Sour movie or whatever.
And we want to put one more upbeat song on the record.
Hold on. This is not a we conversation.
I want to put one more upbeat
Olivia wants one more upbeat song on the record.
The idea behind it, I guess, was that they wanted to add another upbeat song to the record, which is an idea I also really support. Because for an album that came to be known for its like bombastic pump pop hits, Sour is kind of low-key full of ballads. It is a very like piano guitar heavy, just you and me singing breakup songs vibe. I loved the song right away. I still rarely skip it, but it is one of very few that sometimes makes me feel like, am I a little too old to be listening to this right now? I really like how word vomity the lyrics are, and that's something she'd go on to do a lot on Guts. If I had to name a favorite lyric, it would probably be the titular line, because I really do love the way everything builds up to it, and then we drop the production and just hear, it's brutal out here. Awesome. I do love that. It also, just saying it personally for me just now, felt a little bit cringy. I have a distinct memory of when this album first came out, one time listening to this song and rolling up my windows in the car because there were some people around. So much fun. A little embarrassing. So I would consider it a favorite, but I wouldn't consider it a top tier favorite. Because for the record, I do want to keep the top tier kind of exclusive. I'm really trying to save that for like what could be in contention to be my favorite on each album, which means anything I do love, but that I know for sure I would not rank number one on an album is going to go into the second tier, which I have titled Equals a Heart Forever. That is where Brutal goes. Oh no, it's Traitor next.
Guess you didn't cheat, but you're still traitor.
I say oh no because this is gonna be my hottest take of the video. Like, for the most part, I've already told you this is a top heavy list, and the stuff that does happen to fall in that second to last tier is not stuff that I think a lot of people are gonna ride or die for, but this is a song I put in the second to last tier, and this is a song people love. This is a song I loved. I don't remember exactly what my like first impressions ranking was of Sour, but I did post one on Twitter, and I believe Traitor was up high. I can sing it front to back as I can with basically her entire discography, but I have had my day with this song and I have enjoyed it, and there are still things I appreciate about it. But over time, I think some random little quirks of the song that have always irked me have really started to irk me more, and I'm to the point now where I must admit that I skip it most of the time. This is blasphemous, I know, I'm sorry, people are gonna be so mad at me for this. Here's the main thing, which I've also heard other people complain about in the past. One of the lines that occurs over and over, I think it's the end of the chorus, is pronounced "before I went and fell in love with you." And I realize Olivia put this out at 17, right? So it is not like unreasonable that one of her songs would say "with you" in it. The thing is that the rest of this song is so dramatic. It is so dramatic. So then when you're hit like at the end of every chorus with "before I went and fell in love with you," there's just a juxtaposition there that has really gotten to me over time that I overlooked initially, because there is something I love about this song, and that is the general premise of like not letting somebody get off on a technicality. No, you didn't cheat, but you're still a traitor. Like, it hurts all the same. I think that's a really cool premise for a song, and I do still love that line in and of itself. But betrayal is a big word, and it's kind of okay with me if she like takes on that kind of drama as long as it stays consistent throughout the song, and instead we take on this idea of like big hurt, and we like punctuate it every time with the immaturity of phrasing "with you" as "with you." It just kind of undercuts the whole song for me, and then calls into question lines that are already a little bit iffy for somebody of this age to write about their teenage love triangle. Not that a teenage love triangle can't like totally hurt, but we still want to always be like emotionally honest about the ways that it hurts and what the pain like is. When she's sleeping in the bed we made, don't you dare forget about the way you betrayed me. And that to me gives like divorce. That gives you made a bed together, you lived together. Over time, I've grown to view this song as sort of the embodiment of the one criticism of Sour that I think really holds water, which is that it's written from the very limited perspective of a teenage girl who has been in this one relationship. And that is in some ways also the album's greatest virtue, because you need music for that exact situation, and you can't have every song about a teenage breakup being like in hindsight from an adult writing about it, right? You need songs from in the moment, those feelings, those emotions. But then you get to a song like this and we're talking about betrayal, we're talking about the bed we made, we're talking about loving somebody at their worst, you know what I mean? And then she says, "before I went and fell in love with you," and it's like, oh, you're a child. I almost forgot. Coming off of "You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love Now," it is also really like cool to see how far she has come in this regard. And I will say that from the beginning, Olivia has had a habit of looking inward in her music, and even on Sour, you see a lot of maturity in her lyricism. There are some songs on Sour that are very blamey, that are very angry, but for the most part, we are still dealing with somebody who is like angry with themselves, who is willing to look at the situation for what it is. I feel like this song is the exception. I feel like this song is a little too dramatic. I also feel like this criticism itself is going to annoy people there, because I'm not just saying that I don't really like the way this sounds, and I have like a criticism of it that people might find unfair, because, you know, it is okay to feel betrayed even at whatever age, you know what I mean? And this isn't a TED Talk. This isn't Olivia's testimony on the stand before a judge. She is not trying to lay before you the exact situation she was in. It's a song, so she can be dramatic. And I'm not saying I hate the song, and I will still occasionally listen to it. But as I was sorting these songs into tiers, I just knew that I had like qualms with this song that I don't have for other songs on Sour that I am placing above it. So it had to go here in the second to last tier. Moving on, hoping that you don't hate me, to driver's license.
Got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about.
So obviously this song is iconic, and I don't know where we would be as a culture without it. Hands down, my favorite thing about it is the way that at multiple points it does literally sound like a car. I think that is sick. My second favorite thing about it is the bridge. Red lights, stop signs. Yeah, that's good. My least favorite thing about it is some of the clunky lyricism. For instance, I don't love "I've never felt this way for no one," just like in a grammatical sense. It is very age appropriate. It feels like something a teenager would write, and a teenager did write it. And because this song is very inherently for that age demographic, because it is about getting your driver's license, I think it's befitting. At least it doesn't irk me the same way "With You" irks me. And that's basically it. There are things I love about this song and other things I'm not so wild about, but it is undeniably like a moment in time. And I was there, and I'm glad that we were all there. It was awesome. This does reveal, though, finally, our middling tier. Keep in mind, once again, that I am a fan of this artist. So when something goes in the middle tier and I'm calling it average for her, which means I still like all of the songs that end up in the middle tier, even Love. With that, the third tier is titled after a song on Guts. Can't think of a third line. La 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 la. Next we have...
It's always one step forward and 3 steps back.
One step forward, 3 steps back. Now, interesting thing about me, my favorite Taylor Swift song is New Year's Day. That's actually not what I say in my original Taylor Swift ranking, but it is the update I give when I review Folklore and listen to Evermore. I love New Year's Day so dearly, and this song interpolates it, and I think for that reason alone, I was originally higher on it than I have wound up to be over time. For one thing, besides that it has a nice melody, I don't understand why that song was chosen to interpolate for the song, because New Year's Day I think is a really beautiful love song. It's about wanting someone at their best and at their most boring, wanting them at midnight and on New Year's Day. One step forward, 3 steps back is about a push and pull relationship where you're trying to earn the approval of a man. There's just not a lot of like thematic overlap there, so it really just must have been that she liked the way New Year's Day sounded. And I like what this song does with the melody, actually beyond like the exact like piano notes. It doesn't sound that much like New Year's Day at all. And in its own right, I do feel for this song and have related to like what it expresses. And for an album that mostly looks at this breakup in hindsight and in anger, I feel like One Step Forward, 3 Steps Back is the most like in the moment you get with it, where it is, instead of being like reflective on your feelings after the fact, it is about your feelings during the fact. It is sadder in that way. So there are a lot of really like heartbreaking lyrics on here. Let me find a favorite. Oh, I've always loved, and maybe in some masochistic way, I kind of find it all exciting. Like, which lover will I get today? Because first of all, it's an example of Olivia being a relatively self-aware songwriter from the very beginning. And I do think it's a very hard thing to acknowledge when you are in a push and pull dynamic like this song describes, your own part in it and the way that your brain comes to like thrive on the dopamine hits of the ups and downs. So obviously I do think there's a lot to love about this song. I think it's really honest and I do like the way it sounds, but over time, a lot of the ballads on Sour have sort of blended together for me, because I don't think we did as much like interesting production back then with her songwriting, and I'd be very curious what a song like this would sound like for her now. Like, I pretty much am only ever going to hear One Step Forward, Three Steps Back if I am putting Olivia Rodrigo, the artist, on shuffle or listening to Sour, the album. I'm not like randomly like, ooh, I want to hear that one. You know what I mean? And for that, it will wind up in the middle tier. And looking at my computer now, I have to tell you something. I messed up. I told you that Driver's License was in the middle tier when I have it written to be in the same tier as Brutal, the second tier. And I do think that makes better sense for it. So Driver's License has been promoted. It's one of my elite employees. Anyway, that brings us to Deja Vu.
You get deja vu. You get deja vu.
And now that she has a new album out, I'll have to see over time if this remains true. But I have said, when people have asked me what my favorite Olivia Rodrigo song is, that it is Deja Vu. And if you accosted me on the street right now, even knowing you seem pretty sad for a girl so in love now, I think I would still say Deja Vu. This song is so good. I will say, first of all, that in whatever year this came out, I think it was 2021, this was my most listened to song on Spotify Wrapped. And even though the rest of Sour is further down on that playlist, I think it was the only one to make the top 5, just like sat there at my number 1 amongst a bunch of Leighton Meester songs, because I got into her 2014 album that year. So that means I wasn't just hearing Deja Vu on the album, and that makes sense because it did come out beforehand, but I was specifically seeking this one out. And I distinctly remember, like, the week it came out, going on a drive, hitting the loop button, which I'm not one to do. I like to like hear other songs between songs. I looped this and I drove in circles, and I got ice cream and I drove in circles, and I listened to Deja Vu with the windows down because I love this song. And it's so good for that exact experience too. It is such a windows down song. It is such a summer song, and somehow like an angry song, a sad song that is still so fun. I don't know if this is true, and I would have to check, but I do think it was the lowest charting out of Driver's License, Deja Vu, and Good For You, which were the singles that came out before the whole album. I think the other 2 went number 1, and I don't think this one hit number 1. It is easily my favorite of the 3. I think it is so genius. And it's also so distinctly Olivia, you know, despite the whole writing credit situation. It is so her in a way that a lot of her other songs sort of remind you of like previous eras. There are a lot of songs, for instance, that I love on Guts that remind me of songs that would be on like a teen movie soundtrack of the 2000s, and I love them for that. But this one, Deja Vu, feels very much like how songs sounded at the time when this came out, and still not like in a dated way. All of the little quirks about it, like the ha 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 ha's and the little I love you, which I think is in the second verse. I love the shouting in the bridge, much like I loved it on Cruel Summer. And lyrically, what I appreciate about this one is how specific it is. Something I've really taken note of in regards to Olivia as I've been constantly listening for this video is that she often, not always, but often writes very broadly about like feelings. She often actually writes lines that begin with I feel statements. And a good thing about that is that it makes her very relatable. And I think you can very easily listen to her songs and sort of apply them to your own situations. But I think you can even do that when there are details in a song that don't match up with your life, just because you understand the feeling. And this is a great example of that. I wasn't Olivia Rodrigo when she was in Malibu eating ice cream with presumably Joshua Bassett, watching reruns of Glee and singing in harmony. I wasn't her. I wasn't there, but I've been there. My ring fell off. Well, I guess I'll find that later. I think it went in the trash. But I've been there in the sense that I've been somewhere with somebody, listening to something, eating something. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to relate to watching reruns of Glee. You can still relate to the feeling. Such a banger, easily top tier, and if you disagree, you're wrong. Good For You is next, and this might be kind of a hot take because it is not going in either of the top 2 tiers, but it's not in either of the bottom 2 either. It is in the middle. I do enjoy it. I do see why it blew up the way it did. I like how angry it is. And this really was our introduction as a culture to Olivia's rock pop or punk pop tendencies, you know, her angry self, her bombastic self. I still listen to it, I still have fun, but I guess when I'm looking at her whole discography and trying to sort out my feelings, I do tend to prefer when songs express like really unique feelings or deal with conflicting feelings, like you love somebody, you hate them at the same time, or a very specific like angle of heartbreak or this or that. I feel like this song, it's very broad and that it's just kind of like angry. It is, to be fair, slightly more specific than that now that I think about it, because it is conceptually about when your ex seems to be doing better than you, and that is something to write about. And I don't dislike this song. I guess I'm just trying to explain why I didn't put it in one of my top 2 tiers, even though I do enjoy it. And I suppose the best way I can describe that is just to say that I don't find that it surprises me. Let me pick out a favorite lyric. Actually, you know what I've always liked? It's the screw you line. I like that she says, well, screw that and screw you, specifically because, especially at this point in her career, I don't think she was that great at using F-bombs. I didn't talk about this when we talked about driver's license. I find the F-bomb in there just like a little misplaced. And it's not even a thing where like I think she was too young or I'm like offended by swear words. I think when you are that age, the way you use them can sometimes come off as like performative. So I think that's what I'm talking about. And so this actually comes off a lot more naturally to me. Screw that, screw you. And I also think that that's kind of an underutilized like profanity, because it's not that dramatic and people want to be a little edgier, but sometimes like we should be saying screw you. I like it. The other one I've always liked from this is I've lost my mind, I've spent the night crying on the floor of my bathroom, because I feel like a lot of this song is about how he's doing. You seem to be doing fine, I'm not. But it's not very specific about how you aren't doing fine. I think the image of like crying on the floor of your bathroom, it's like, oh, I can see why if that's how you're living and then like he's already with somebody new, that it's like, how are you doing this? Third tier it is. What is next? Oh, Enough for You is one I was surprised to hear her say in a couple of concert clips I watched preparing for this. Was her favorite song she's ever written. She said that a few times. I don't know if that would still be true. I'm sure that her perspective on that changes all the time. But it was at some point her favorite song she'd ever written. And I can see why it would mean a lot to her. It's a very, what's the word? Not honest, but like confessional, earnest. There's a certain word I'm thinking of and I can't get there. Sincere. I think sincere is the word. And much like One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, I think this is the only other song that is more so writing from within a relationship than from outside of it, looking back at it. Well, and actually reading it now, it is in past tense, so I do think this is still after the fact, but it's writing about the feelings she had at the time, not the anger she had afterwards. I did all of these things because I thought they would make you like me more. My favorite line from this one is easy to come up with because I've always loved it, and you have to know how the rest of the song goes to get there, so as a reminder, she ends every chorus by saying, you say I'm never satisfied, but I don't think that's true. All I ever wanted was to be enough for you. And she could have switched it up sooner, but she actually holds off until the very end, and I think it's smart to switch it up and say, you always say I'm never satisfied, but I don't think that's true. You say I'm never satisfied, but that's not me, it's you. So good. I do love that part. So yeah, much like One Step Forward, Three Steps Back, there are like elements of this I really love, and I don't inherently hate like a ballad that expresses like these deep feelings. I do listen to them. I can sing every word to them, but I think there's just like less going on than in some other songs in the musical sense, in the production sense. So it is also in the middle tier. Adding another song to that middle tier, I am also going to put Happier there.
I hope you're happy, but don't be happier.
Happier is an interesting one because I have always really liked the almost pettiness of that titular line that she hopes you're happy but not happier. I just think the execution of it could go harder. I almost think that this song in particular could benefit from that pop punk style that is on other songs found within this album, just because that is actually kind of an angry idea, that she wants you to be happy but not happier than you were with her. That's kind of not her most evolved self speaking, right? And it's okay to write songs about ugly feelings, not like the best thoughts you've ever had, right? But then if you're doing that, you kind of want to be putting on a performance. You want to be indulging in that anger through every element of the song, including how it sounds. But this one is kind of another ballad, so it makes that line come off as like very earnest, and I don't think that goes well together. I would say my favorite line, not just because of the lyricism, but also because of like the way it hits melodically in the song, is when she goes, "I'm selfish, I know, I can't let you go." I just think it sounds a little bit different than the rest of the song, and I almost wish that's how the rest of it came off, because something about the way she sings that sounds a little sarcastic. I feel like the song could have used like a little more bite in that sense. Okay, so next, as I am recording this, I am tempted to make a last minute call about Jealousy, Jealousy, because I do right now have it placed in the second tier. But out of any other song on Sour besides Deja Vu, I would consider it in contention for my number one spot. And for that reason, I am considering moving it to the top tier. What do you guys think? Jealousy, Jealousy? It is just so good, guys, and I don't think I really appreciated it as much as I should have when the album first dropped. I remember liking it and all, but at the same time as some of the ballads on Sour have sort of been losing their luster for me, this one has really stood the test of time and grown on me and just gotten better and better. I mean, the bridge has always been so cool. Should we listen to it? Let's listen to it. That is so good. That's so good, guys. You guys, I'm going to move this to the top tier. I think it deserves it. I think that's what my heart is saying right now, that Jealousy, Jealousy is one of the best songs on Sour and of her career. I love that song. I feel good about that. I feel like that was the right thing to do. Anyway, my favorite part of the song is definitely the bridge, and that is partly just because I love the way it sounds. But if I want to look for like lyricism, what are like the lines I like the best? I like in the second verse when she almost like breaks the fourth wall. She says, "Cool vintage clothes and vacation photos. I can't stand it. Oh God, I sound crazy." That's so good. I love Olivia Rodrigo. I will say, this is not the only time she has written about jealousy throughout her career. It's something she writes quite a lot about, and it is like the most on the nose, but I don't mind that about it. It's very blunt about what it's trying to get across, but I've decided I'm cool with that. Favorite crime is another one I would consider moving from what I have it listed as right now, because I was already thinking about it as I was getting ready and like listening to other reviews. I was feeling unsure about where I have placed it, which is in the second to last tier.
Well, I hope I was your favorite crime.
I think a part of that decision was driven by how few songs I have in the lower tiers here, and like just kind of wanting to get more songs in there, and knowing that among like the songs I feel middling about, this is probably one of my least favorites on Sour. But I don't think it's something I view on the same level as Traitor and another song that's going to end up here. I think I'm going to move it up to the middle. We're just moving things around. That just feels more true, because there are aspects of Favorite Crime that I think are really cool, and there are some lyrics that I think are excellent. I think if I had to express why it was ranked lowly prior to right now, it's similar to what I was talking about when it came to Traitor, because it's just a very dramatic song for what we know it's about. But thinking about it now, it doesn't do the same thing that Traitor does, where it undercuts that drama by also being a little bit immature at parts. You know what I mean? Because it really commits to the metaphor here. This whole song is comparing the relationship or the ending of it to like a crime scene, and she doesn't like let up on that to like randomly do like a teenage lyric or something that feels out of place. It's very consistent, and for that reason I really want to forgive it being dramatic, because then you are writing about your real feelings through this like lens of a metaphor, and you're allowed to get like creative with it, you know? I guess there just like have been times that I've listened to her sing The Things I Did So I Could Call You Mine, and I've thought like, the things you did, like what did you do? Like, I know that you were not Bonnie and Clyde committing murders in this relationship. I am pretty sure of that, but she did, based on a song like Enough for You, wear more makeup than she normally would, or read books he liked. So that's probably more so what the lyric is referencing, and just doing it within this metaphor of crime. And you know what? That's okay. That's allowed. And the metaphor itself is just written really well. A famously great line from this is "One heart broke, four hands bloody." Come on, that's good. Basically, I guess I have forgiven this song for whatever I didn't like about it before, but I'm still not gonna like give it first or second tier. Third, good. Now, I sort of spoiled this because I said there was another song in the bottom tier and there is only one song left on Sour, and that is Hope You're Okay. I do not think that people are gonna really get fussy about this being in the second to last tier.
And I hope that you're okay.
It is not the most streamed on the album. It isn't one she's known to play live. It's largely forgettable, even though there are parts of it I find very pretty. When the chorus starts or the bridge starts, I can't remember which, and she says, address the letters to the holes in my butterfly wings. I don't know if I like fully understand what that means, like as a metaphor, but I do like the way it sounds and find it interesting. I also like that this is one of very few songs where Olivia sings like outside of her own perspective about other people. Obviously, these are still people she knows, but it makes me curious about what storytelling would sound like from her in more of a fictionalized sense, because she doesn't do music like this very often. She's very often singing like diaristically about her own experiences, which is also really cool, and I like that about her. But I'm curious what like a folklore like album would be like from Olivia. But yeah, I skip this a lot of the time. It doesn't interest me that much, even though, you know, it's nice. I'm getting nervous because I'm taking a long time to film and my boyfriend's coming over and I might still be filming when he gets here, so you might meet him. When Guts dropped, I remember on Twitter pretty much immediately being asked which album I preferred, Sour or Guts, and I remember being like, I've only been out here for 3 days, please, like, I don't know, I like them both. So I don't know if I've ever said this on record, but for a long time now, I've considered myself more of a Guts fan. I think that it's kind of unfortunate that it didn't do as well commercially, even though it was still very much a success, because I think it's such a stellar album, and hold Sour close to my heart, though I do. I think that she really takes her strengths from that album and utilizes them on Guts. Not to entirely spoil my thoughts about You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love, but I am already pretty sure, even though it just came out, that it's my favorite now, specifically as an album, as a whole body of work, because I love that it's almost a concept album. I love that you have to listen to it front to back. I love just like the entire story the album is telling and the way that it all culminates into something together. But on a song by song basis, I don't know if that one is going to outdo Guts for me. I don't often return to Guts as an album. I'm not always shuffling the album itself. What I do return to are very specific songs on it. I'm always like, oh, I want to hear that right now. I want to hear that right now. And if I were ranking Olivia's discography not in this tier format, but one by one, I think you would see a lot of Guts songs like up there. And I had the hardest time distinguishing what would go in the top tier and the second tier for this album. So do with that what you will, but let's get into it. The first track on Guts, Spilled, because we are including the bonus tracks, is All American Bitch. I'll just tell you right away that I put it in the second tier, equals a heart forever, because I like it very much. I like the whiplash of it, going from the sweet sounding stuff to the heavy sounding stuff. I like the sort of political messaging of it, just the like feminist undertone of it all. And I like what it means for like Olivia's career herself as somebody who is both seen to be like an artist with edge and somebody who's very safe. Like, she has a lot of like dimensions to her. I think it's a song that really works for her, and I also think it's fun when she does like the scream stuff at the end. Even if it also feels like slightly forced, not even forced, just like you can tell they're writing that thinking, and then we can all scream in the concert. And I think she's like said that too. So it's not forced. It's like manufactured in a way, which is okay. And for that sort of like maybe slightly overly polished reason, I don't have it as like one of my top tier songs, but I love it dearly. And it is second tier for me. What is the favorite lyric here? You know what? Because I was already talking about how I don't always vibe with where she places her F-bombs. I like when she says, I've got sun in my motherfucking pocket. I don't think there's a better way to put that. I think that's so fun. What is next? my favorite song on Guts, I think. I guess there are a few that I would consider in contention with it, and it is not the only song that I will be putting in the top tier, but it is probably, if you ask me right now, the one I would say is my absolute number one favorite on Guts, and that is Bad Idea Right? Question mark. I think this song is generally well liked and people look back on it fondly, but I do remember right when it first dropped seeing a lot of people just not getting it, and I got it right away. It reminds me weirdly of like songs that would be on the Teen Wolf MTV soundtrack. There's one in particular. I'm gonna play it for you. This is Game's original mix by Onili, who is an artist with less than 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. I only know this song because it was in Teen Wolf. I think the episode where you see Derek as a teenager, but I'm not positive. But this is the song I immediately thought of when I heard Bad Idea Right.
I didn't mean to cheat on that one, but you cheated, so I cheated. No, I'm not proud.
But I think you get the idea. It's not that like they have the same melody or lyrics or anything, but they have the same attitude and like willingness to just like get weird and funny with it. I think Bad Idea Right is just so lyrically fun and musically interesting. It's kind of experimental, but also retro. Like it reminds you of those teen movie soundtracks. A lot of stuff on Guts does. And I'm scrolling through the lyrics now, just struggling to name what my favorite section of the song would be or line, because I just love it beginning to end. I think it is full of really funny one-liners and like hooks all over the place. It's not like you have to like wait for the bridge and that's the part you love of this song. Every second of it is so much fun for me. Top tier, that's all I can say. Next we have Vampire.
Bleeding me dry like a damn vampire.
Now, behind putting Traitor in the second to last tier, my placement of a Vampire is what I've been the most worried about people's reactions to, and rest assured it is not in the fourth tier with Traitor, but it is in the third tier, which some might find low because this is a huge hit. I think the biggest hit from Guts. The thing is, I think I like Vampire better as like an album track than as the lead single for Guts, because I don't think Guts gets enough credit for how different it is from Sour, and that's largely thanks to both it sticking with the purple color scheme and Vampire being its lead single. It is very driver's license coded, not necessarily in concept, but in the sense that it is a big, sweeping, building breakup song. But this time, I buy it less. And buy it less feels like a harsh way to put it, because I don't think it's a song that's lying to you about Olivia's feelings, and I'm sure that the relationship this is written about did inspire these lyrics in her. Maybe it's the metaphor that feels a little overwrought to me. Mind you, because I'm criticizing it right now, this is still the third tier. These are still songs I enjoy, I listen to. I am only trying to explain why I didn't place this higher, given how famous it is as a song and the fact that it was chosen to introduce this era of Olivia to us. I mean, we were just talking about favorite crime, right? And how it's a very consistent song. So it's doing the crime scene analogy, but it's committing to it. I actually don't think that Vampire commits to the vampire bit, which is especially funny because I remember when little snippets of lyrics from this song started to drop before the song, just like leading up to it. Some people were making fun of it for being like on the nose with the vampire thing, because it says you only come out at night, you sunk your teeth into me. To me, that's cool. To me, you should lean into the vampire thing, and we should be singing about coffins, you know, and bats. But I think too often we just like pass by the vampire stuff and then we like mix it with other metaphors. Even within the chorus, like literally between lines about vampires, you get like a car parts analogy. So obviously we're talking about the idea of like using someone for their fame or their status or whatever else, but we're mixing metaphors. We're talking about vampire sucking your blood. We're talking about black market car mechanics selling parts. And then beyond metaphors, we're just saying it straight up, you're a fame fucker. And to me, this song also contains one of those misplaced swear words, not fame fucker, which I also don't really like in the song. But besides that, I think we undercut vampire by putting goddamn in front of it. Bleeding me dry like a goddamn vampire. We couldn't have just said like a vampire. I do really love the way it builds, and I 100% enjoy listening to it. I think it's more like lyrical problems I have with it, as well as just the general fact that I wish we didn't do vampire as the lead single for Guts, because most of the love songs or breakup songs or anything dealing with romance on Guts are really lighthearted. You've got Bad Idea Right, Love is Embarrassing, Get Him Back. There are a few somber songs that aren't explicitly about romance, like Making the Bed or The Grudge. But really, I think the only other song on the standard edition of Guts that is a slow, like, breakup song is Logical. So it is weird to me that for an album with the attitude that Guts has, we were brought into the fold with a vampire. It just feels a little bit out of place compared to what the album like has to say about this period of Olivia's dating life. Still enjoy it though. Don't hate me. Lacey is a song, believe it or not, that I considered putting in the top tier. I love this song. I don't, however, think that I would ever place it like first on Guts, so I've kept it to tier 2.
Smart, sexy Lacey, I'm losing it lately.
I believe when I was talking about Jealousy, I mentioned that is an on-the-nose example of Olivia singing about jealousy. And the main other example I was thinking of that wasn't as on the nose was Lacey. I learned through one of her Tiny Desk concerts that this actually started out as a poem that she then put music to, which is also a really interesting thing to learn about it. And I think what I like lyrically about it is the way that it is a little harder to pin down. A lot of people have debated like who Lacey is. Is she Gracie Abrams? Is she Madison Beer? Whoever else. But I don't view it that way. I couldn't be sure. Maybe Olivia did have a few people in mind or just one. I'm not her, so I wouldn't know. I think though, or interpret, that Lacey is like a figment of envy. And I think it's a really interesting way to sing about this concept that Olivia does touch on a lot, which is like comparing yourself to other girls. I will also say that this song has really grown on me over time, because I think when I first heard it, this was not a favorite on Guts. I think a lot of people didn't like it at first, and I think a lot of people still don't like it now. I don't think I'd get a lot of pushback if I ranked this one lowly. Unfortunately, that is not how I feel. And my favorite lyrics are the last two, when she says, I despise my jealous eyes and how hard they fell for you. I despise my rotten mind and how much it worships you. Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl is such fun, but I only put it in the 3rd tier.
It's social suicide. Wanna curl up and die. It's social suicide.
As I've been looking at other people's rankings and writings about Olivia Rodrigo, working on this video, preparing for it, I've been surprised by how many people like have an issue with her using the term social suicide. So I guess that's out, but I don't mind it. I like all of the specific instances of like embarrassing things she brings up in the end. Thought your mom was your wife, called you the wrong name twice. There's a fly flying around, by the way, so if you've seen it, I know about it. I just don't know what to do about it. And honestly, I don't really have a grand reason why I didn't put this in the 2nd tier beyond that. I was looking at the stuff I put in that tier and just thought, I don't like this as much. I enjoy it. It doesn't like speak to me in a unique way. Moving along again. I think Making the Bed is fantastic. And I don't know if that's a hot take.
It's me, it's the naked bride. Me, it's the naked bride.
I'm sure a lot of people love it, but I don't hear a lot of commotion for Making the Bed. What I think is that it's an example of a song with good enough lyrics to warrant it being a ballad. This is something I've been thinking a lot about leading up to this video, because Olivia does do a lot of ballads. She's actually like an interesting case where she's either doing a ballad or like a big pump up song with a lot of percussion or like big builds into big bridges, a lot of lyrics, like just a lot of stuff going on. She doesn't do a lot of like run of the mill like sleeper pop. She's not that kind of artist, and I love that about her. Sour. But like I said, a lot of the ballads on Sour can sort of like blend together for me, and I think like maybe the concepts aren't strong enough to justify that we're like just intimately like with a guitar right now. Like maybe we needed some more stuff going on. But I really like the concept of making the bed, and I really like the way she wrote about it here. A lot of people are talking about how her song The Cure takes accountability, how it is a song that looks inward, and that's very much true. And you know, I also love that song for that, but I think we have to give credit to the fact that she's been doing this for a while. It is the exact premise of this song, actually, because it doesn't get any more specific than that. It's not about a particular area of her life where she feels unsettled or unhappy. It's kind of about how any unhappiness she has is something that she does have to look at herself in the mirror for. My favorite line is probably the opening one here. Want it, so I got it. Did it, so it's done. Simple, but like bars. So like if you guys aren't getting it, the metaphor of this song is when people say like, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. She's singing in this song about how everything that she isn't satisfied with in her life is something that only she could fix. It's me who's been making the bed. Pull the sheets over my head. I love it. Did I say what tier I put it in? I put it in the second tier. Number 2, Club. Equals a heart forever. Okay, so I had no real concept of how popular of a song Logical was going into this, and I was a little bit worried about where I put it, but, you know, looking up other rankings and reviews, it seems like this one isn't usually ranked that highly, so I'm maybe not alone when I say I put it in my second to last tier. And that's largely because of the ballad problem we were just talking about. Unlike Making the Bed, I don't think Logical is lyrically impressive enough to make it interesting. Ooh, oh, I'm sorry. There are cool lyrics here. I like in the beginning when she says, I fell for you like water falls from the February sky. I like when she says, I know I'm half responsible. And there's a strong moment when she gets angry towards the end and she's saying, said I was too young, I was too soft, can't take a joke, can't get you off. That part goes pretty hard. Because like for the record, this is not in the last tier. There are things to appreciate here. I just think there are other lyrics in this song, particularly the recurring lyrics in the chorus that are a little cliche. Like every time the chorus starts with 2 + 2 = 5, and then it says rain don't pour, sun don't shine. These all feel like variations of like exact lines I've heard before, but tell me why I'm wrong, Logical fans. Next is Get Him Back! Exclamation point. And besides Bad Idea Right? Question mark. It is the only other song on the standard edition of Guts to make it to the top tier. So I think the pattern here is punctuation in your title, which I actually don't like. Kind of as a rule, I don't like that. But here we are. So, you know, it can't mean too much. Olivia was not the first, nor has she been the last, to utilize the double entendre of the Get Him Back phrase, but I love what she does with it here. It is so fun. It's actually fun in a very similar way to Bad Idea Right? I think that these are the songs that define Guts for me. My favorite part, though I love the whole thing, that I like really lock in for when it gets there every time I listen is the bridge. I've particularly always loved I Want to Meet His Mom just to tell her son sucks. Oh, that gets me every time. I love that. 2 things before I move on from Get Him Back. My boyfriend is coming over and he's almost here, and I wasn't going to film this while he was here, but I have taken so much longer to film than I thought. So he came when I told him to, and now he's too early. But I would just film while he was here if it weren't for the fact that my phone is also dying, and I used to be able to charge while I recorded, but now that I use this mic, I have to charge separate. So I'm gonna film the Girl So in Love portion of this video another time, and depending on how quickly I get through the rest of Guts here, maybe I also do Guts Spilled, the bonus tracks here, at a different time. The next track for now is Love Is Embarrassing.
Now it don't mean a thing. God loves fucking embarrassing
I would categorize Love is Embarrassing very similarly to Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl, where it's an upbeat song that I really enjoy, but I put it in the third tier mostly just because I was looking at the stuff in the second tier and thinking I like those better. So I don't have a profound reason why it's not higher, and I do really like it. I'm looking at the lyrics here and I'm not sure what to like point out as my favorite part, and maybe that's why we're on third tier here. Like, I enjoy all of it, but none of it is like my standout moment. Like, I love that part. So I'm gonna move on, for also the reason that I'm getting nervous about my battery. The Grudge is one that I would say is on the cusp of the second tier, but I did put it in the third. I think that's mainly because given they are both ballads, I ended up comparing it pretty directly to Making the Bed, and I do prefer Making the Bed, but The Grudge can have rights, and I like it quite a lot. I think the main pitfall it might have is vagueness. So basically, I think it's a really like interesting and emotionally charged song, and I do feel it when I listen to it, but I wish there were more specific lyrics in there, not like for drama reasons where it's like, we'll get into like what happened here, but even just to know like the relation of like who this is about. But maybe it's better this way because then it's more applicable to just whoever's listening to it. I think what I want is for this song to be a little bit more open, a little bit more honest with me, so that I can have like a dialogue with it. But as it stands, I still think it's very good. My favorite part lyrically is probably the rhyme that happens early on when she goes from trust that you betrayed, confusion that still lingers, took everything I loved and crushed it in between your fingers. I think that's a really good rhyme. And every time that comes on, I sing that and I'm like, ooh, that like rolled. That felt good. I've had an interesting journey with Pretty Isn't Pretty because I actually don't think I liked it very much initially, and that wasn't based on its sound because I've always really like vibed with it, but I think I found it to be kind of a basic thing to write about. I was like, okay, like we're all insecure, who cares? And that's so sad to think about now because this song, like, it had a whole new life for me based, this is so weird, on a TikTok. And maybe some of you also had this experience. It was kind of viral. A dad brought his two, like, little daughters to an Olivia Rodrigo concert, and she played this, and they're singing along to these super sad lyrics about insecurity and, like, how you need to buy more makeup and nothing you do will ever make you feel pretty. And then he, like, starts tearing up, and then he looks, like, even beyond his daughters, like, at the whole crowd, and he, like, makes this sad face. I think my boyfriend just got here. Hey.
Am I in it?
Yeah, right now.
Hard launch.
So just 2 more songs.
Do you want me to sit right here?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to go downstairs?
You can sit right here. Get on your phone or something. Okay, so there's this video. A dad brought his 2 little daughters to an Olivia Rodrigo concert, and they're singing along to this song, and he starts frowning. And then he looks around at the rest of the crowd of girls all singing every word to the song, and he starts tearing up. And then I'm watching that, and I start tearing up, and it totally changed how I view this song, like, forever. Because I can't believe that I am so used to, like, the way like women view ourselves and all of this stuff, that it wasn't even interesting to me before. Now every time I hear it, I kind of start tearing up again because I think about that dad looking at this crowd of girls and being like, what, they all feel this way? And now I love this song for that. So it is in the second tier, and there is only one more song left on the standard edition of Guts, Teenage Dream. And that one is unfortunately in the second to last tier.
I'm sorry that I couldn't always be your teenage dream.
This one is slightly less interesting to me than many others, kind of in a similar way to the other album closer of Hope You're Okay. Did I mention about Hope You're Okay? I also hate that the your is spelled U-R. I forgot to say that. It's just kind of like, I don't think every album needs to end on like this vibe of song, and I don't think it's working in either case. There are parts of this I really like. Let me look at the lyrics here. You know what? I think the very beginning is my favorite part. Just all of the questions. When am I gonna stop being great for my age and just start being good? But then when you reach the end, they all say that it gets better. It gets better the more you grow. And we just hear that over and over and over and over. And at that part, I think maybe it's just not musically interesting enough to be that repetitive. Like, I would rather be hearing other lyrics. And that is why it's not the highest ranking song on this album. I'm gonna film the rest of this some other time. Okay, new day, new fit, but I'm going to a baseball game in a couple of hours. So I wanted to make sure I was ready in case this takes me that long to film, and based on yesterday, it might. We have 5 Guts tracks remaining to go over, and they are the bonus tracks that were included with the deluxe edition, Guts Spilled. Then we can get into the new album, which I am very excited to talk about, but we must do our due diligence when it comes to the Guts Spilled tracks as well, because I quite like them. There are 2 in particular that I think have developed a notoriety that sort of goes beyond, you know, deep album bonus tracks, and those would be Obsessed and So American. So American will be the last one we cover because we are going through chronologically, but Obsessed is the first bonus deluxe song on Guts Spilled. And if I'm remembering correctly, the deluxe album sort of dropped with it as the single because there is an Obsessed music video, and I'll start by saying that Obsessed is a top tier song. First of all, it's so real, and I honestly can't think of that many songs that tackle the same subject matter. I mean, there have been a lot of pop hits over time that have dealt with love triangles in general, whether that's your ex dating somebody new or the person that your current partner dated before you. But I think these songs tend to put on the performance of like complete confidence. I want to mention Taste, which is also a song I enjoy. It's just a good example of the way I think love triangle songs tend to put the narrator in the driver's seat, or like the power position of the situation, whether it's fictionalized or based on an actual story. Because like realistically, the position Sabrina Carpenter sings about on the song Taste isn't one that would be a confidence booster. It could make you feel quite small for your ex to go back to their ex from before you, right? But the song sort of puts on a confident facade that says, okay, then you're tasting me too now. And I think it's 100% okay to write about things from that perspective, because then you're just making an uplifting song about the situation, even if it isn't an inherently uplifting situation. Another song I'm thinking about would be Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, and obviously none of these songs are about like the exact same scenario. They're just all about love triangles, and in that one, you know, she's not singing about the insecurity of not being chosen. She's singing about how obviously she was the right choice and the person in question was really dumb for not picking her. I guess what I'm trying to say is that looking at the whole realm of pop songs, upbeat pop songs in particular, that are about romantic jealousy or having a romantic rival, you're a lot more likely to hear a singer come off very confidently in those songs. And something I like about Obsessed is that it manages to be upbeat and fun to listen to while still being very earnest and not like putting on a farce. I've definitely already touched on this in a number of ways, but that is one of Olivia's great strengths as an artist, is that she's just very honest, and I can't look at very many of her songs and say I don't think she really felt that way. Obsessed is very relatable, and I think not something a lot of number one like pop girls would be willing to say, because it's not self-aggrandizing. I also think Obsessed came out at the perfect time in Olivia's career, because between Guts and her current album cycle, the pop landscape saw a lot of new names and faces. I think the exact year that Obsessed came out, correct me if I'm wrong, was the year of Espresso, Brat Summer, and like Chappell Roan winning Best New Artist. Kind of crazy awesome year for pop. So we culturally needed this reminder in the form of Guts Spilled that Olivia is not going anywhere. She was not just of a particular time. She is here to stay. I think it's catchy, it's tightly written. I think the tone of it is very fitting for its subject matter. And my favorite lyric has always been, I remember every detail you have ever told me, so be careful, baby. The next song on the Guts Spilled track list is Girl I've Always Been, which prior to Girl So In Love, which we will have to let percolate a little longer to say for sure, has been Olivia's least streamed song of all of the songs I've talked about. Actually, all 3 of the deluxe tracks besides Obsessed and So American that we're about to talk about that just like don't have as much attention, all 3 of them are songs I like. And they all have a similar like undercooked energy that I think works for bonus tracks. I understand why these weren't included initially, but knowing that they weren't, I'm able to sort of appreciate them in this different way where they're not a vampire, where they were made the lead single, so you kind of have to be a little more critical of them because they were released in the way that they were and they still aren't that popular. You almost get to like appreciate them as an underrated, like deep cut track. I also think something about the production on them, specifically the instrumentation, feels like twee excellence. Kind of like, have you ever listened to Katy Perry's first album or just seen like a music video clip from that time and thought, wait, was Katy Perry once giving like alt chic? Girl I've Always Been and Stranger have that energy to me, where it's almost part of their charm that they come off as acoustic songs. Let me listen and see if it actually like is literally acoustic. Yeah, I think that's mostly guitar. And then Stranger, which is not the next track, but like 2 tracks from now, guitar. 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 So maybe when I say twee excellence, what I mean is this is a guitar song. Anyway, to talk about Girl I've Always Been in particular,
That I am the girl I've always been.
it's essentially about people telling her she's changed and her saying, no, I'm the girl I've always been. And I don't know if this would be about like people she knows in her personal life who have said you were different before you got famous, or like people reputationally in the press saying that she is changing, she's not as innocent as she used to be. Fun concept for a song, fun lyrics, and I like it as exactly what it is, which is like a back half deluxe track in the middle of the songs that are designed to be bigger. My favorite lyric is, I have captors I call friends, I got panic rooms inside my head. It's actually kind of like the darkest lyric in this song and not necessarily the most representative of the tone of the rest of the song, but I just think it's cool. I like it. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you where that ranks. I believe I put it in the middle tier. Next, we will be talking about Scared of My Guitar, which among the 3 that rest between Obsessed and So American is the most popular, I think. Am I making that up? No, actually, apparently Stranger is more streamed. I guess that's not the only metric that accounts for popularity, but whatever. In my heart, Scared of My Guitar is more popular because I guess it's my favorite of the 3. I did put this one in the second tier above the middle. Equals a Heart Forever. When I was naming the tiers, that was the title I was the least sure about, but I love it now because it's so much easier to reference than my other tier titles. Every time I put something in the second tier, I'm like, oh, that's Equals a Heart Forever. But when I put something in the top tier, like, am I gonna say, I think I'm in la 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 love every time? Anyway, regardless, I'm a fan of Scared of My Guitar, which I didn't reference as a guitar song when I was talking about the others, but as its title suggests, I think it is mostly or only guitar.
But I'm so scared of my guitar 'cause it cuts right through the heart.
It's about, I would say, her being afraid to put pen to paper and write a song about a relationship that is healthy because she is afraid of the discontented feelings that might come out. I like that concept for a song, and I'm generally a fan of self-referential guitar songs in the tradition of While My Guitar Gently Weeps or Teardrops on My Guitar. This song, I suppose, enters Olivia into that pantheon. Do I know what the word pantheon means? A group of all the gods of a specified religion or mythology. Okay, yeah, I think I did use that correctly in a metaphorical sense. Like Making the Bed, I think this is a slow song that earns its slowness by having a concept and lyrics that you can chew on quite a lot. My favorite lines, or I guess like stanza, would come from the second verse, and it starts with, if I was brave and noble like you, I'd have the nerve to just stop stringing you along, but I'm not half as decent as you, I'd rather be tied to someone, even if they're wrong. Kind of a cursed and evil song if you think about it, but self-aware. Next, we can talk Stranger, which I would categorize the same way as Girl I've Always Been and put in the middle tier.
You're just a stranger I know everything about.
Weirdly, I think the titular lyric of this song doesn't quite convey what the rest of the song is about, even though they're related, because the lyric with the word stranger in it says, "You're just a stranger I know everything about." This is a song about an ex, and I feel like that line itself is kind of melancholic. It actually reminds me of other songs that have talked about this concept of somebody being a stranger you know everything about as like a tragedy. What comes to mind first is New Year's Day, a Taylor Swift song we've already talked about. In that song, she says, "Please don't ever become a stranger whose laugh I could recognize anywhere," and that is about a current relationship that you're scared of ending. Scott Street by Phoebe Bridgers also comes to mind because there is a repetition of the line, "Anyways, don't be a stranger," in that song. Oh, and what's that one? I think it's just called Strange by, Celeste? Yes, I got it right. Strange by Celeste. Oh, beautiful song. I love that song. The chorus of that song says, "Isn't it strange how people can change from strangers to friends, friends into lovers, then strangers again?" I think I got that. So when I hear "You're just a stranger I know everything about" in this Olivia Rodrigo song, it makes me think, oh, that's kind of sad. There's somebody that you were once really close to roaming around this earth that you do not talk to anymore. I think that's a sad idea, but the rest of this song isn't sad. Not to me anyway. I think it's a song about finally getting over something and being like, oh, I didn't think I'd ever get here. The very opening of this song, for example, says, "I had the strangest feeling of this weight off of my chest. I hadn't felt that hopeful since the day that you left, and it felt nice, so nice." That's essentially the energy of the rest of the song, looking back and being like, I am free of this, and so much better for it. My favorite part is pretty late in the song because the melody switches up, and I love the way it comes together when she says, "There's nothing left for me to sing. I screamed, I cried, I did the whole thing." I think that's funny, and it rolls off the tongue in the song. That brings us to So American, which doesn't have a lot of streams compared to the rest of Guts, but I think compared to the bonus tracks besides Obsessed, which had a whole music video treatment, it really took on a life of its own. This is definitely a fan favorite that just sort of caught fire. And I would say it's also a favorite of mine, so I put it in the second tier. It is kind of bittersweet to listen to now because it is so distinctly about her relationship with Louis Partridge. As much as I think songs can take on a life of their own, and a lot of love songs that are technically about somebody have a universal quality, this one was so specifically about him and so obviously about him and admittedly about him that it's really hard to disconnect their breakup from this track. So I think a lot of people connect to this song just on the basis that it's fun to listen to. They can apply it to fictional characters as well. And, they could think about Olivia's relationship and what she was feeling when she wrote this. And you don't even have to be in love at all to appreciate a love song. So it's not like songs get their value from being relatable. There are also obviously lyrics in here that aren't so explicitly about the cultural differences. He's like a poem I wish I wrote. I've always liked that line. I think that if I did rank her whole discography one by one, this song would be close to the bottom of the second tier where it is right now, because there are a lot of other songs in the tier that I would definitely place above it, and it's a borderline one. I would consider third tier as well, just because it's hard for me to articulate what I do find strong about it. But while I was sorting all of the songs into my color-coded chart, I really just couldn't resist putting this in the second tier because every time I hear it, it makes me happy. And I dance to it and I sing to it and I have a great time with it. Sometimes that's all you can say. So even when I decided to tier rank her songs instead of doing it one by one, I could have done it differently than going chronologically through the albums, but I thought it would be fun to really make you wait for this. And yeah, me too. I'm obsessed with this album right now too. And honestly, prepping for this video, having to listen to her whole discography was kind of hard when I just wanted to listen to the new stuff because it's new to me. I obviously also had topicality on the mind when I decided to do this video right now when she is coming out with something new, because it's good for the algorithm or whatever, just the relevance of this video to you right now. But the downside of that is that I haven't had the time to sit with this that I have had with Guts or Sour, so my opinions I think stand more to change when it comes to this album than on the previous two, where they're kind of set now. But like I said when I was talking about Guts, I do think this has become my favorite Olivia Rodrigo album when we are talking about albums, bodies of work, because I love the vision that this project has front to back. I love that the two sides represent the two sides of the title. Girl So In Love, you seem pretty sad. And because we're talking about the concept of this album, I also love that she's admitted, and it's pretty obvious just based on the timeline, that it wasn't always going to be this way. It wasn't always going to start with the bubbly beginnings of a relationship and sort of transcribe it to its end. But life happened, that's where her story went, and it gave a whole new color to the love songs on this album, apparently some of which were altered to help progress the storyline that gets darker as we go. So often when we talk about what makes an album strong beyond just being a collection of strong songs, we talk about cohesion in like genre, in sound, in whatever else. But this album is actually only somewhat sonically cohesive. It definitely has through lines, but it goes a lot of different places. What remains is a really interesting story and a thematic undercurrent that is very consistent. So how I feel about specific songs on this album is inevitably going to change over time, but I can tell you right now that I overall love the project, and that's probably the most important thing. Like, headline review of this album, love it. I'll mention before we get into it as well that there is one song released on like a special edition somewhere called Never Do that I have heard that I do enjoy but will not be including, because I just don't think until it has a wide release and I can listen to it on Spotify that it's like canon. I don't know. I can't be doing that right now. Sticking to what is released, the first song we have to talk about is the lead single for this album, and that is called Drop Dead. Okay, so this one actually had to grow on me, which is surprising because I never would have said it was bad. There was never anything about it that I didn't like, besides maybe the music video. I kind of wish that my first exposure to this song was not the music video, which is also hard to explain because I don't think it's a bad music video either. Like, it's really cool that it was filmed in Versailles. And I was extremely unsure about her outfit in it, which I am afraid to talk about because I am not a fashion expert by any means. I just know I saw it and I was like, ugh, I don't like that. And she has moved further into that baby doll aesthetic throughout this era, which has been a topic of conversation. I am not personally offended by Olivia Rodrigo wearing bloomers. I just kind of don't think it's her look. I just don't like it aesthetically. What I do like from this era though is the side part. I think Olivia does side part very well. And I've gotten more used to like the frilly stuff she's wearing. I think it was just so foreign on her to me that it was jarring. But you know who it reminded me of is a smaller pop artist who I hope I am pronouncing the name of right, Alessi Rose, who I listen to. I think she's actually a pretty fun comparison point for the love songs on Girl So In Love. So if you like them, you might like her. Check her out. Anyway, about the song, once I got past my dislike for the outfit in the music video, I always did enjoy Drop Dead, but I didn't enjoy it as much off the bat as I do now. And what's also weird is that it's hard for me to pinpoint or explain why this one had to be like a grower for me, because I think usually when songs are slow burns in my mind and they take me time to attach to, they have a weirder quality or like something I don't like about them that I have to get used to over time or that I change my tune on. But Drop Dead I think is really tightly written, and there's nothing I've like changed my perspective on about it. There's not like any part of it that didn't sound right to me before that I've like grown to develop interest in. It's just something that took me time, and I don't know. It is now currently in the second tier. It has earned a heart forever. You know what? Maybe part of it is that to appreciate this song, I needed the whole context of the album, because now I've obviously watched like all of Olivia's interviews about this album, and through those I have learned her thought process behind choosing Drop Dead and The Cure as her singles, and they really make perfect sense for the album that this is because they start the two distinct sides. So maybe Drop Dead just means more to me as the beginning of this narrative than it does as an individual song, and maybe that's okay. But my favorite part, and this might be controversial because I know it gets so fun later on, my favorite part has always been the very beginning. I love the way she sings, "I know that the bar closes at 11, but I hope you never finish that beer. You know all the words just like heaven. and I know why he wrote them now that you're standing right here. And saying them now, it's not even that those lyrics are so strong or profound. It's just like the daisiness to them with the music. I love the melody of that part. You know what I also really like though is when the second verse just totally switches up from the first, because there are too many songs in this world where like the only good part is the chorus and you're kind of wading through the verses to get to the chorus. I want your intro to be a hook. I want your verse to be a hook. I want your chorus to be a hook. I want your bridge to be a hook. I want your outro to be a hook. Keep me interested, you know? And my favorite line when it does get faster is, I feel like I might throw up. Left hook, right punch to the gut. I have like a physical response to that lyric every time, almost like it's a line dance song. Next is a song, however, that I'm seeing a lot of people argue should have been the lead single over Drop Dead, and that is Stupid Song. I mean, it would have worked because much like Drop Dead, this one also focuses on the high of the early stages. But Drop Dead is like the literal first date, and even like the online stalking beforehand and the just dreaming about meeting them part. So I understand why they were released in the order that they were. Do I like this one better, however? I don't know. I definitely liked it more straight away, and it is already, even though I haven't had time to sit with it the way I have Drop Dead, it is already on the same tier in that second row. But it's also maybe a little bit more standard for Olivia. I think part of why Drop Dead maybe had to grow on me is that it was different for her and I had to like acclimate to where we were at the time. Stupid Song feels like in the vein of songs she's written before, even though it is different. And when I say it's similar, I mostly mean that it builds a lot. Like, even though it's more upbeat, I'm thinking of a song like Vampire, where we start slow and then we pump it up and then we pump it up, and then in the end we're like screaming. That's what Olivia loves to do. She loves to build, and that's great. We love that. I will say on the other hand that Stupid Song is different in the same way that Drop Dead is different from her previous music, in that it is singing about the highs of love, not just like after the fact, not the heartbreak part, but the good part, the in love part. I actually wonder if Olivia had written more love songs prior to like So American in her career, if the beginning of this album, the Girl So In Love half, would feel a little redundant, because there are so many love songs like in a row, and that really works for the chronological aspect of this album, because it is like a timeline, it is a story from start to finish. But just in terms of like keeping things fresh, I think because it is that way, it's honestly a good thing that we've also never really heard Olivia like this before, that it is new to see her trying to express feelings of joy in music rather than what she has written about in the past. You know what I mean? Because personally, I listened to the whole first half of this album, which is full of upbeat love songs like this, like Drop Dead, like Me Plus You Equals Heart, and none of them feel like they're melding together in my mind. They all feel very distinct, and I don't get tired of them. And I think that's helped by how fresh this is of a thing for her to write about. So I quite like all of them, to be honest. Many people have pointed out before me as well how interesting it is to see the seedlings of the darkness to come on these early tracks. She has talked about altering the early tracks in this album when the whole thing sort of came to fruition in the end. She's mentioned in particular altering the song Purple, and I don't think I've heard any others by name, but I'm like so curious, like what lines were added, what lines were taken away, how have these songs changed? Like, did Stupid Song always include I feel right, I feel wrong, I feel totally insane? Because that is both like true to form how love can feel and pretty telling as far as like how this could end badly. My favorite line contest would be between that and when she says nobody's wanted somebody more. But yeah, I love this song, and because I'm a supporter of Drop Dead being made the lead single, I am glad that this one got a music video when it was released, at least, because it's also a song that like can totally be a hit and you can feel that in it. The other one I would consider would be Expectations. I think Expectations could be a hit. The tempo gets a bit taken down for the next one though, because we are talking about Honeybee. Olivia mentioned before this album came out that there was a song on it she could see people playing at their weddings, and I've seen a lot of different guesses as far as what that song could be, but I think this one makes the most sense just because of the like tempo of it. Because yeah, you could do Stupid Song or You Plus Me Equals Heart Forever, and most weddings have dance parties, so they would be fitting. But if you're talking about more so the type of song people would play like as their first dance song or something like that, you'd have to give it to Honeybee. And there are really beautiful lyrics about like long-term commitment in here. Specifically one that I've also heard her reference as her favorite lyric on this album. I hope I never see what your face looks like going, a face I swear I could spend my whole life knowing. You know what I also love here is when she says, it feels like God threw me a bone. But I think for a wedding song, if this is the one she meant, it would be a little dark because there is an undercurrent of doubt here because, you know, she ends that a face I swear I could spend my whole life knowing line with here's to hoping. And to be fair, just because the relationship that this album is about ended poorly doesn't mean that I think having anxiety in the happier parts of a relationship means that you are like doomed to fail. So I'm definitely not saying you can't be heading into your wedding relating to this song, but I do think there's a sad undercurrent to this song. Musically speaking, it's a piano heavy song and very theatrical in its melodies. I think that the piano ballads on this album, specifically this and Less, sound so theatrical to me. They sound like a musical, This and Less, and I love that about them. I love that about them, especially because this is such a narrative album that it really kind of suits a song that you could see a character singing on stage. But I do love the song very much, and I have put it with the rest of this album so far in the second tier. I swear that's not where this whole album goes, but it had a very strong start for me. The first song on this album that will go somewhere different is actually the next one, and it will be in the third tier, Maggots for Brains.
I'm a sad shell of a woman and I've got maggots for brains.
Mind you, this is another one of my cuspers, my borderline entries. I considered this for the second tier. I think when I was comparing it to the songs I put up there, I just knew I liked all three better. I knew I preferred Honeybee. I knew I preferred Stupid Song. I knew I preferred Drop Dead. And that's sort of how this ended up here, even though I also love it. As much as the previous three songs did dabble in random lines that hinted at something darker that would happen in this relationship, the things we'll hear later, I think this is the first song where you really get into it, and I'm very curious about when a song like this was written or how it might have been altered when they started changing the album to become what it was. I guess I just long to know the exact level of like self-awareness she had while she was writing this. I've actually seen some deeply misguided people calling this song male-centered, which is absurd because no matter where she wrote this in the timeline, it was never from the perspective of believing that this is a healthy way of thinking. This is an example of a song that is about your least evolved thoughts. This is about feeling lost and not like yourself in a relationship, specifically maybe when your partner is away. And she calls that having maggots for brains, not because it's a good thing. Anyway, I think it's an absolutely necessary step in the evolution of this narrative to get to another one of these upbeat love songs that has a little bit more explicitly like red flag language in it. When I first listened to this song on a walk with my dog, I was really caught off guard by the honesty of a line in the second verse, which is, sometimes at a low point, I even wish for a tragedy because I know he'd come over and take real good care of me. But yeah, catch me a week from now saying I wish I'd put this in the second tier where it belonged, or even the top one. I do like this song a lot. Oh, You Plus Me Equals Heart has definitely gone from being my least favorite title on this album to being my absolute favorite. I think there's a lot about You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love that is very mature compared to her previous two albums. So when I saw the title You Plus Me Equals Heart, I was like, oh, okay, I guess. But I have so much fun with it now, as you've probably noticed. For that reason, you might like to see it put into the tier I named after it, but I actually have to admit I put this in the third tier as well. OMG, so sorry. This is another one I could see being promoted. There are moments of it I truly love, especially the end of the bridge when the lyric is, they say modern love's a cruel endeavor, and to that I say, fuck it, whatever. So fun, so fun. I kind of think the whole song culminates in that moment, in that line. And the chorus is generally fun. I like the imagery of carving your names into the car seat leather, but the verses don't interest me as much. unfortunately. You might think it's a crime for this to be in the third tier because I do think this is already a fan favorite. I don't know what song on this album isn't, but trust, it could have been lower. This one has already been promoted. This one has already grown on me leaps and bounds. So that's my thoughts. Now we will actually be putting something into a tier lower than the third, and that is My Way. I put into the fourth tier. Not to spoil the whole rest of the video, but nothing else is ranked this low on this album. And again, like You Plus Me, it's already grown on me. I think when I was doing my first listen through of this album front to back, and I loved all the beginning songs so much, I got to like this wall with You Plus Me where then I heard this and I was like, oh, okay. And when it comes to this one, the issue for me was I think like a mixing thing, because this chorus does something unique where like half of the lyrics in it are sort of understated, almost like they're in parentheses. So she says, "You're in my way now," and that's bright and clear, you can hear her. But then when she says, "Don't go where you don't belong," it's understated, it's like got some reverb on it, it's quieter. I couldn't name the exact details of how it sounds different. It just does. You know what the word is? Muffled. When I'm doing like audio editing on my YouTube videos, this would be like if I put a car radio effect on it, so it got like tinnier. So within the song, it's almost like an echo. It's just supposed to sound different than the previous line. And that is fundamentally okay with me, but I found it very hard to make out what she was saying. I know now because I've heard it enough. I've heard it enough ways and enough environments because I've been listening to this album in my earphones, then out loud on my Echo Dot, then in my car. So over time, I figured it out. But upon my first listen, I was literally like, wait, what? Don't go, don't go. I was really kind of confused by it. Musically speaking, on this album, this song is the most similar to the previous like pop punk stuff she's done. I think Obsessed is probably the best comparison point for it. And maybe comparing it directly to that song will help you understand why I just don't think this one packs the same power through a production standpoint. There's something about the mix here that I don't like. But conceptually, rest assured, I don't have a problem with it. You might have seen me rank this one lowly and been worried that I'm like, this is a bitchy song, she should not have done this. It was sort of surprising to me because like we've talked about, Olivia has historically written with some wisdom beyond her years, especially when we're talking about other women. She has never wanted to stoke those fires. On Obsessed, for instance, she sings about presumably the same person, saying that she even speaks kindly about her. On Driver's License, the start of it all, she says that the other woman is everything she's insecure about. What else can I reference off the top of my head? I know she says something in Happier. She's so sweet, she's so pretty. You get the point. People are calling this Olivia is Better Than Revenge, Olivia's Misery Business, and I never expected her to enter that genre. I also think looking at this song, she doesn't do like the slut-shamey lyrics that either of those songs do. It is though a time when she's being like openly mad at a woman, which I think is allowed, and I'm not mad at her for doing so. I can have fun with this song. I don't dislike hearing it. I think compared to the rest of the album, it's not as strong. I don't think it's doing something as interesting, and that's just where I'm at with it right now. Interesting one up next. Purple is described as essentially the bridge between the two halves of this album. It is the turning point. This one, even more so than You Plus Me, has been a grower. I first heard this and thought to myself, ooh, why does it sound like that? She sings Purple as if it is a horror movie cue. Also, thanks to Halsey, I think we've all heard about how red and blue mix to make purple, so I thought that was kind of a cliche lyric. And I was basically just not high on it right away, but the more I've familiarized myself with the whole concept of this album, the more I've listened to Olivia talk about it, and specifically hearing her talk about how she changed something about the song, and I'm so curious what it was. I think I've grown to appreciate this song's place in this album and what it means for the larger project. You could even look at the first half as the red half and the second half as the blue half. Purple as a color also has like historical significance to Olivia's career, which is interesting to me. And that creepy sound on the word purple, it's just like independently grown on me because it's a sort of like weird sound that I have to get used to before I can really love. And because I've grown to appreciate the fact that it might have been intentional. It didn't accidentally sound a little off-putting. It is maybe something they changed about the song, or if not, then something that does still, regardless, help lead you into the darker part of the album. The more you listen to a song, the more familiar you get with its lyrics as well, and I think there's some really interesting stuff on here. I love early on when she says, I used to visit your town like a tourist, now I got a local grocery store and a favorite florist. I mean, rhyming tourist and florist is just kind of unique and fun to begin with, but I also think it's very telling as to like how ingrained you can get in somebody's life. I will always like a Melt With You lyric as a Melt With You song stan. I love that song. If I had to guess what was changed or added to make this the proper like turning point on the album, I bet that the outro was altered a lot or just like completely additional. It just gets so melancholic towards the end as she starts singing quieter and slower, and she says, melt with you till it all turns black, melt with you till I just feel sad. This one really just rewards you for multiple listens, and I'd bet a lot of you have had similar experiences with this song, because I feel like I saw a lot of first impression like live tweets that ranked this one lowly, and just the more you think about it, the more you sit on it, the more I think you'll appreciate it. So I didn't move it all the way to the tippy top, but it is in the second tier with some of my other favorites from this album. And there is more than one song on this album that is in the top tier, so like good things ahead. Oh, and actually the first of those is right now. The Cure, top tier. Like I said, Drop Dead was a grower, so I immediately liked The Cure better, and it immediately made me more excited about the album. Conceptually, it's just so self-reflective and mature in that way. And when she's mentioned in interviews that she feels like she's been trying to write about this feeling for a long time, I know that's true because I've heard it. And we've talked about it on a song like Favorite Crime, One Heart Broke, Four Hands Bloody. This is an artist who, despite her like big angry hits, has always had a vested interest in looking inward. And I think this is like the pinnacle of that. I think it's a really good culmination of all of those thoughts that she's previously expressed. And when I talked about the mixed metaphors on a song like Vampire, I think we are dealing with a song here that doesn't have that problem. I think its metaphor is very consistent throughout. It's, you know, medical terms, medical stuff, but secretly we are talking about anxieties, mental anguish. Remember when I was talking about Obsessed and how it's actually kind of rare for a pop girl to write about that situation from that perspective, where you aren't being self-aggrandizing, where you are instead like flipping the microscope onto yourself. It's not that common for super famous people to be doing this. Sonically, I have to wonder if my dad's heard this song, because all of the people that everyone else is saying that this sounds like, they're people my dad listens to. And I've been playing a lot of Olivia Rodrigo around my boyfriend prepping for this, and the second he heard this, he was like, Everlong, Foo Fighters. So then he played me that song, and I do hear it. Scrolling through, to be honest, most of these lyrics are I'm unraveled, I'm unraveled, I'm unraveled. And that's okay, because in the context of the song, it is built for repetition like that. It's just funny. I was like, let me find my favorite lyrics. There's not that many lyrics. But yeah, top tier, in contention to be my favorite on the album. And I think a very fitting start to the second half, as well as a very fitting second single. Begged is one a lot of us heard prior to album release because she sang it on SNL.
Nothing's quite enough when I know that to get it I beg.
First of all, very pretty verses. Like I said, I think there are too many songs in this world that are a slog through the verses until you get to the chorus. I think you're right away drawn into this one, or at least I am. All that I want is to know, undoubtedly, that you only have eyes for me. Love the melody on that. Think it makes sense as a stripped down like guitar song at this point. And you know what I'm thinking right now, just seeing that the first lyric is all that I want? Maybe this is a spiritual successor to All I Want. Nini, it's happened. That's her name in the show, right? Nini? Now when it comes to the chorus, I think there are some really strong rhymes here that scratch an itch in the brain and like roll off the tongue and just sound good. I'm patient, you're learning, pretend it's not hurting. That is a turn of phrase. I'm cool and forgiving, I'll take what you're giving. Ooh, between those lines, however, I think from the moment I've heard it, I haven't been wild about the way we move from those like tight rhymes into They say it's a virtue to not let good love slip away. That doesn't rhyme with anything. And it wouldn't matter that much to me because I don't think songs inherently have to rhyme. It wouldn't matter that much to me if the rest of the song didn't rhyme so well. It just like sticks out like a sore thumb to me. And I haven't seen a lot of people complaining about this, so I feel kind of stupid for it. But I hope somebody out there is in agreement with me. I hope that somebody out there is also like, I wish that we rhymed more. The rhymes were so good. And even if that line in particular did rhyme, that's not actually something I've heard. That's not a saying. That's not a saying. Patience is a virtue. I've said patience is a virtue. I've never said to not let good love slip away is a virtue. So for specifically that reason and the way that that line and I think another in the chorus just sort of like kill the vibe for me a little bit, I only put this in the third tier as opposed to the second or the first, which I think it could have made it into if it weren't for that. I think there's so much about this song that I love, but I can't lie to you and say that I'm not always thrown off by they say it's a virtue to not let good love slip away. Like, I don't know why I feel kind of uncool for being like, I wish this song rhymed, because it feels like kind of an elementary criticism of a song. Like, grow up, some songs don't rhyme. To me, it's weird to go back and forth from being like very poetic, like A-B rhyming, and then bam, crazy clunky line just like shoved in there. Next up is Olivia's first career collab with Robert Smith, which is such a cool first collab to get.
I think you're what's wrong with me.
You know what's funny is I told my mom and my stepdad that I was working on a video where I would be ranking all of Olivia Rodrigo's songs, and they were like, oh, okay, like they were somewhat interested. And then the other day I'm accosted in the kitchen and my mom says, you didn't tell me that Robert Smith would be on one of Olivia's songs. And I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, you know, that's the guy from The Cure. And I was like, oh yeah, I do know. But yes, her and my stepdad, they loved the song. And we talked about how well their voices go together, which is kind of surprising. But I did know that because I've been a fan of the Glastonbury version of Friday I'm in Love. I love listening to that cover. I think this is a very cool like cosign for Olivia. I also think, you know, one of her virtues as a famous person is that she's also such a fangirl and has been since the beginning, and that's why she is so open about her influences, and she just like loves to talk about the music that inspires her. And so when she gets an opportunity like this, it feels like it just feels good. It doesn't feel like she's grabbing big names for like the metrics of it all. It feels like this genuinely means a lot to her. The song itself is more like middling to me on the album. And when I say it's middling on this album, that means it's the middle of an album I love. So, you know, I do enjoy the song greatly. Put it in the third tier. If I had to name why it's not higher, it would be the verses. I think the verses can slog just a little, and then every time the chorus comes in, I am having a great time. For being like a little bit lower key, it's actually very like groovy and danceable. I just have to save spots in the top tier for songs like Less, which I love so much.
Then I guess I wish you loved me less.
Even though Less isn't the other song that uses the word honeybee, it feels like a companion piece to Honeybee in its theatricality. Less, even more so than Honeybee, sounds straight out of a musical to me. I love its like piano motifs. It could be slotted in to a jukebox musical like so easily. It would be the easiest song ever to put in a jukebox musical. But what made me fall for it and what made me immediately think like, no, this is like one of the best songs on the album were its lyrics. If loving me means letting go and wishing me the best, then I guess I wish you loved me less. Ouch, ouch, ouch. That's the sort of lyric you hear that feels like it's kind of always been written, like you can't believe nobody's ever written that exact turn of phrase before. It speaks to something so specific but so succinctly and so perfectly, and there is something so much more tragic about a song like this than a breakup song that is written in anger. If you pressed me to choose a favorite song on this album, if you made me choose between this and The Cure, I would probably choose Less. But alas, we must move on to expectations. which I feel like I've already hinted is a fave of mine on here. Not quite top tier though, because I only put it in the second with a lot of my other favorites. I love everything in the second tier, to be clear again. I think this could be a huge hit. I have such fun with this song, and it is good enough to justify the musical whiplash of coming after Less and before Cigarette Smoke. I've always enjoyed the talk singing thing Olivia does that I think is also a staple of Dan Nigro, her main producer. My favorite bit here comes at the end of the second verse when a little bit of the empowerment slips away and some delusion makes its way back into the fold, and she says, in a couple months a man will be procured, he will be evolved, and I will be adored. Adored. Just a fun lyric. I think it sort of takes the conceit of the song down a notch. Like, I say this now, but we all be saying things. Super fun chorus, super fun time, and I don't think anybody really disagrees with that. Let's get to the last song. Cigarette Smoke feels like the exact type of breakup song that Olivia was challenging herself not to write for this album. But she must have known we would all allow her at least one. Because she does it well, and she did this one well. I will admit it is only in my third tier, which means it's not like my favorite on the album, but I obviously enjoy it. Its length notably has nothing to do with where it placed for me. I think its length is a virtue. It's a big song, it's a moody song, it builds, it can have that time, it can have all the time it needs. I think the first thing that threw me off a little was the title, because I think Cigarette Smoke is maybe like an overused metaphor for the lingering memories and feelings. I think it's a little bit like Tumblr 2014, and we could have done something more interesting for that metaphor. Because I do love later when she sings repeatedly, tell me something honest so the memories turn dark. Like, I love the concept of this song and just like the feeling of wanting the memories to go away. But Cigarette Smoke being the analogy for those memories just felt like a little overplayed to me. And I think there are other lines on this song that have that sort of cliche quality to them. Specifically, give me back my time and I will give you back your heart also feels like a Tumblr quote to me. On the other hand, it's bone dry, bitter and hollow, you'll be miles away tomorrow. That stuff doesn't feel like I've heard it 1,000 times before. That stuff feels so much more visceral to me. So I 100% enjoy the song, and I think it works well as an album closer. With that, that means we have gone over them all. I really hope there's not like some Olivia Rodrigo song that I just like hadn't heard of for some reason. I think I got them all. I think we've talked about all the songs except for Never Do and like the songs she didn't write for High School Musical, the musical, the series. Those were never going to count. I mean, she does have a lot of unreleased stuff that she like used to sing on Instagram Live, but obviously I wouldn't do that either. So we're good. We're good. I hope that you didn't find any of my takes here egregious, but if you did, let me know. Let me know. It's okay. It's okay. If I did my math right, the top tier across all albums had 8 songs in it. The second tier had 13. The middle had 16. The fourth had 6. And the bottom had 2. So yes, a top-heavy list, but not one without occasional shortcomings. Not one that isn't like fair and honest, right? In the comments, leave what your top tier would be. Leave what your bottom tier would be. Leave what you would name your tiers, because I found that harder than I did with Taylor. But that is all for now, and I hope this won't be a nightmare to edit, but it probably will.